Welcome to the 419. I'm Gretchen DeBecker, along with my co-hosts Matt Killam and Kevin Mullan.
So I realized something through the editing of our podcast so far.
That your voice is awful.
Me? Are we talking to me now?
No, I didn't figure that out. Did you figure that out?
Yeah.
Okay. In addition
You
to,
already
well,
knew that.
I will say in addition to that,
Thank you.
I've been saying your last name wrong this entire time.
You trying to make it fancy?
I tend
Smith.
to do that. Yeah, it's Smith. No. So I think I'm saying DeBacher.
Yeah.
And you say
DeBacker.
It's interesting that you say "and you say" as if there's two versions. I mean, it's your last name.
this is
I say this, and you say, like your name. There's a real ego in there.
well. There's
People try to make it
I felt like this
fancy.
was a team podcast, and
Yeah.
so like I'd say part and she'd say part, and I'd let her say it the right way, rather than me say.
I like that.
I know that you say
Yeah.
DeBacker,
Yeah.
but I say
DeBacker.
yeah, and that's not right.
Or Bach. People try to make it crazy. I know.
Yeah.
But it's B-A-C-K, so it's back.
Does that happen, Matt? Do people get your last name wrong?
Yes, they want it to be something that it is not. So that's either Killiam with an I, even when we break it up based on syllables, right? So it's Killam. It'll show up there's an I. I'm like, you know what? This family needs another. Oh, they can't possibly. There's an I in there for sure. Or like Killian the beer, or like Kilmin.
Yep.
I'm like, no, it's Killam. No, just like I'm saying it. And I would think Killum would make sense.
Or E-M. Kill him. Let's kill him.
Yeah, that's right. But it's never that. It's
Yeah.
like, it's IAM. Am I hearing that? I'm like, no.
Yeah, I get my name spelled wrong all the time, and then whenever somebody says it, it's Mullins. They add an S.
Yeah. Is it my mom?
Myers.
Yeah, my mom
Kroger's.
is making everything plural now.
I tell people this is my line that gets them to recognize this. I tell them like, once you've gotten to know me,
Yeah.
you'll
Kill
know
yourself.
you don't want to.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
I
like that.
Get to know
Yeah.
me, you won't
God,
want to.
you should
It's
do a
not plural.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also had this realization is that because you, at no point in time have you corrected me all these times that I've said it. And it made me realize that I think we're tolerant of people getting our last name wrong. But if somebody mispronounced your first name,
Yeah.
you'd be really annoyed.
It also made me think that I may not listen to you very well.
You and my wife have that in common. Perfect. Oh,
gosh.
goodness gracious.
So how's everybody been otherwise? Good?
Good. And I will say that I think, we're, a few podcasts into this, and we didn't really know what we were getting into, what was going to happen.
And we've stuck to it.
Yeah, that's right. We still don't know what
Yeah.
we're doing.
We don't care what the public wants.
No.
We are still
That's right.
doing this
Right.
podcast.
But I think the good is the response so far, I think, has aligned with what we felt about it.
Yeah.
That we felt good. We've had fun, and I think people are having fun and listening to it.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
And I appreciate that. And the texts, right? You get a text from like there's some moment that happened in a podcast, and it becomes this cool inside joke.
Like,
for
I'm
all
not
of
keeping
us.
the baby. Did you get that message? You didn't.
No.
Oh,
No, was that just you?
nope. Never mind.
Yeah. But I think I saw it. You forwarded an email, Gretchen.
Yes.
That the subject line was pretty specific to the episode they
it
had
was
seen.
perfect, and you knew that they had listened to it. And I would like to report that my own mother has listened to the podcast, and she thinks we all have very nice voices.
Oh, that's the nicest thing I've ever heard your mom say.
Yeah, to anyone.
That's not a joke. Yeah. Who was? Why did I not get this email?
I forwarded it to you.
No.
The subject line was R.I.P. Tommy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sad tale.
Sad day.
And so if you don't know what that reference is, you should go back and listen to the Mary Brucker episode.
Right.
And find out why that's funny for us.
Yes, and
It's
then
a
offer
sad
her
tale.
your condolences.
Condolences. You added an I.
Condolences.
Yeah.
You added an I. Hey, so it's
Your turn.
It's my turn.
Kevin Mullan, it's your week.
I'm so excited because I'm confident that both of you will know this person.
Okay.
But I don't think you actually know this person.
Okay.
And I think this person knows you.
Uh-oh.
But I don't think they actually know you. How's that?
Now, here's one more thing before you proceed. Are
Yeah.
we going to attempt to guess?
No.
Or you just want us to tell them?
No, I think you should attempt to guess. That
Okay.
sounds great.
Based on those.
Yeah, and go. Yeah. Based on
No, but
that.
I mean, once you're in, you start your intro. But
All right,
go
here we
ahead,
go. All right,
ahead.
so this is just a couple of like bullet points that we'll work through
Sure,
and
got
see
it.
Okay.
if we get any closer to the person.
Got it.
They graduated from Stanford University.
We should not have anyone.
We should be leaving.
Yeah.
They were the starting tight end for the Stanford football team.
Okay.
Not born in Toledo.
Starting to feel
Terrified.
real warm.
Quickly made themselves at home when they moved here almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
Do
you know who it is, Matt?
No.
They hold a role that when I was a kid, I didn't even realize was possible.
A role?
Their job, what they do, I didn't even realize it was possible when I was a kid. And I say when I was a kid, probably even all the way up until
yesterday,
11 years ago.
Oh, good Lord.
When, like, right before they moved down, I didn't realize that this was a role that they could hold.
Interesting. Okay. I'm intrigued.
Not just a starting tight end for Stanford, but also start in the Nutcracker.
I'm just going to cancel all my guess.
It's
As Mother Ginger?
Yes, has to be.
Previously, the commencement speaker at the University of Toledo.
Let's just bring this portion
And both of those were just in the last few months. A fellow member of the Rotary Club of Toledo. This is where I first met them back in 2015. They serve on the board for the Toledo Alliance of the Performing Arts, the Toledo Museum of Art, two incredible anchor institutions here in Toledo. Anything? They're currently the CEO of another anchor institution. Come on out. Please join me in welcoming the CEO of the Andersons.
I knew you were going to say Pat Bowe.
Dr. Pat Bowe.
All right.
There he is.
Disappointed. Pleasure.
How are you?
Hi, I'm Pat.
Nice to see you.
Have a seat. Welcome to the 419. We may have to adjust a microphone because you are a little bit taller than Mary Brucker.
There we go. Not a lot. She's a lot bigger in person.
I'm going to let you deal with that one off the
Great to be here. What a
podcast.
cool space, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. And I in the intro, I had said, I want to clarify, I had said this is a role that I didn't even think was possible. And ignore the fact that I really have no idea what you do for a living. But the thought
Neither do I. So maybe
We're going to get to the bottom of that today.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
But the thought of somebody with a last name other than Anderson leading the Andersons didn't seem possible to me at the time. And yet you've not only done that, but clearly you've done that well. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. But I guess let's go back and start because I had a chance to listen. You recently did the commencement address at UT.
Well,
Great job, by the way.
That's why you said Dr. Bowe. So
I did.
I make my wife and children call me Dr. Bowe.
As you should.
That lasted for about 10 minutes.
I make mine also, but for no
yeah, it
reason.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had talked a little bit about your time. Obviously played college football, spent some time with UT, giving some advice.
But where are you from?
Yeah,
I'm
let's
from
walk back.
Stockton, California.
Okay.
Born and raised in the Central Valley, California. I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you go to San Francisco, straight east inland in the Central Valley is the big valley is
All right.
Stockton. And my dad was in the grain business, a lot like a miniature Anderson's, 10 employees, little grain elevator. So I kind of grew up in the ag business
Gotcha.
that my dad was in for 40 plus years.
Brothers and sisters, how big's the fam?
Just one brother unfortunately passed away in his teenage years of a brain tumor, but a brother and sister, they're still there, same town. And my mom just passed us last year at 99.
How about
So we had a good run, yeah. So that's our family.
So the jump from childhood grain to Stanford tight end, walk us through that. High school star? Academic
Star is a stretch, probably.
No one will check. So you
Yeah,
can
you
just
can
say-
check and just make them up. There's probably some record out there they keep track of. It's interesting. I tell a lot of people in Toledo, Stockton and Toledo have a lot in common, but are also different. So they're both cities about 500,000 people, both port towns. Stockton's an inland seaport off the San Joaquin River, and ships come in and grain ships go out the port, just like we do here at the Andersons. But it's an ag industrial town. It's a very tough town. So was the murder capital of the country per capita. It's something you really want to be proud of, right? The city went under bankruptcy. The Catholic Church went bankrupt because they had a bunch of schools there, and just, it's a rough kind of a gang-infested town, which is kind of too bad. Even though it's my hometown, I can say that I'm still proud of it. it. But the schools aren't particularly great. But they produce some incredible athletes. So my high school was in the time of the 70s. They tried busing. It didn't work. So they just took a big, we'd call lower class white school and a black school and put them together, made one big school with over 1,000 in a class. So
Wow.
tell me I had 5,000 in my high
That's a big
school.
school, no kidding.
And so what did that make? Incredible football teams, right?
Sure.
So, and I think we were undefeated the whole time in football and basketball. And I was the one white guy in the basketball team, and we had a bunch of guys go to college. So it was more known for its sports than its academics.
How'd you hone in on, pardon me?
Let me say, I mean, you talk about football and basketball, and I think, you come around the corner and we see, certainly D1 college tight end frame. I mean, how tall are you?
I'm a big dude, yeah.
How tall?
I'm 6'7". But in high school, it's sort of funny. I was like 6'5", 175, just a beanpole, a basketball player, and I was a quarterback. And I was a good quarterback, except I couldn't throw or run. And I was a good basketball player, except I couldn't shoot or jump. So other than that, I had the sports down.
Hall of Fame, here I come.
Exactly.
So you can't coach height.
No, yeah, but I made like all Northern California. Our team was ranked nationally and all that kind of stuff. And we had a great coach. We had all these guys who was promoted and go off to college. And I was a classic student body president, 4.0, the valedictorian of a pretty tough school. So it's not like a, big prep school out east or something. So I was in for it when I went into Stanford. It was a little bit over my head academically when I first got there.
Talk to me a little bit about the jump from your school to Stanford. Did you feel immediately like a fish out of water? I mean, you had 120 partners in crime, if you will, on the football team, but that had to be a bit of a transition.
It's different. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Stockton is only 2 hours from Palo Alto, but it's a world apart in the Silicon Valley, and it's a very beautiful area. And the reason I ended up there, I'll tell you a long story. I'll try to make it short. When I was a kid, we had a college in our town called University of Pacific, still exists there. And they had a football team back then. They don't anymore. And Stanford had come to play University of Pacific, which was a level lower. Also D1, but just not quite as good. And they had Jim Plunkett, was 1970, and I was selling popcorn in the stadium, walking around with the thing, selling popcorn. And all these Stanford guys came in, and they had the band, and they called the Dollies, their cheerleaders, had these little Indian outfits because they were called the Indians. And they came marching in. I went, whoa, that looks like a cool place.
That's the place.
And they won like 50-0. I said, well, that's where I want to go. I didn't really know that much about it, academically and all that. And then as I learned more, I said that I wanted to go to a really solid academic school.
Sure.
And I went on recruiting visits to Notre Dame and Nebraska and Oregon and different schools, but close to home, but not too far, just a couple hours, and it was
the date
best
again,
choice of my life.
Remind me that when you entered Stanford, what was the year?
76.
Okay.
I graduated in 80. I'm an old dude. 65. I just turned 65, so I get a discount at the movies.
You do.
Let's stay on football for a minute because there was.
I don't know we're going to talk about football. I'm like an old guy. You don't want to talk. That was like a long time ago.
No, we'll get to stuff. But
when the forward pass was invented, were you
exactly.
terrified?
We actually wore helmets. Yeah. It's interesting today, though. It's with all this NIL and portal and people getting
That's how
paid.
we can afford Gretchen.
So I'll tell you a funny story. My freshman year, had a food fight in the freshman dorm, and I ducked, when a roll came to my head and put my butt right into the glass window and knocked down a $500 window. So I didn't have money to pay for it. So I worked in the cafeteria to pay off the $500 for the window. And then they found out, well, if you're an athlete on a scholarship, you couldn't work. It was illegal to work. And so they kind of made that on the hush-hush. Okay, you're good on the window. Now you paid it back, but don't say you really had a job. And so now people pay you $500,000 or something.
And there was maybe a minute there post USC that you thought you might get a paycheck for playing football.
Yeah.
Stanford.
Yeah, USC. No, we don't talk about USC.
I'm sorry, it's Stanford. Yes,
that's the University of Spoiled Children.
That just happened.
We don't like
at Stanford. Yes,
we don't like USC too much.
But there was
I signed with the Green Bay Packers out of college. I was fortunate to play with John Elway my last year, and he was really good, and I wasn't so good, but he made me look good.
Yeah.
So
did his horse teeth look as big in person as they did?
This is the podcast. He could listen to it, so it might be bad.
We don't have the big download in Denver.
No, probably not. Not demographics there. Yeah, people call him Horsehead, I think, or something. But
a good dude.
Great dude. Great dude. Yeah. And a phenomenal athlete. But
a phenomenal athlete. Dual.
Ridiculous. Baseball. Yeah, great baseball player. So I went to Green Bay and then I got a signing bonus for 10 grand. And when you're like, back then, I was like getting $1 million. And salary was for 20,000 or 30,000 is what you got paid, the minimum. And a regular job, like you go to IBM or, Metro Parks, they'd pay you 20 grand or 30 grand. So it wasn't a big deal. It was like the same kind of income.
Your folks must have been over the moon, though. I mean, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I got a picture. So, but you
might be related.
But you realize you're not good enough,
Yeah.
And you kind of like, okay. And most of the guys are doing, at least the guys that I was trying out with, it's do that or go back home to Nowheresville, Alabama, where I didn't graduate college and, take a hard job.
How much do you think that, high school to college, college to the pros, that perspective you just talked about? I mean, when I think about you and what I've gotten to know about you over the last, decade or so, is like I regularly talk about humility. I mean, you're a really humble person.
I just bragged about my high school achievements.
Well, that's true. But then
Kevin is also a terrible listener.
Yeah.
But then you also talk about, this idea of you realize when you get to the pros, like,
yeah,
you're
there's
not that
people
great.
better. I mean, there's always people better at everything.
Sure, absolutely.
And I mean, I realized that when I first got to college, and here you're at a high school, you're valedictorian and student body president, you're the BMOC, right? And you walk in and people are speaking French and playing the piano and you know doing all, and you're going, oh man, what am I doing here? I'm a nobody, right? And if we all don't have that, you get humbled pretty quick, right? And in athletics, you can tell people are just bigger, stronger, faster, and you just go, okay, maybe I should do something for a living that's not going to be this, and keep my brain intact. Which is
that's
a
right.
plus, yeah.
And how'd that brain intact thing go? Pretty good.
It's questionable.
Right.
Every time at home, like I say, oh, remember that movie we saw that had the guy in it with the gal, the one, the murder?
Yeah.
My wife says CTE. It's setting in early, right?
Yeah.
So how did you make the transition then from getting it, or did you then right away get into the business that you're in now?
Yeah, I did. Sort of funny story too is that my dad was in that business, and then in the grain business in the 70s was a big boom. We sold grain to Russia, and commodity prices went higher. It was kind of a big time of strength, and so I wrote to the biggest grain companies, which was in our industry it's called ABCD, ADM, Bunge, Cargill, Dreyfus, or these big multinational companies, and went out. So back then you wrote a letter which you typed on your IBM Selectric typewriter, which was high tech.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you could type it in and then back it up before it.
Yeah, you still had to do the
line.
whiteout stuff, though. We didn't have the real fake stuff. Yeah. So and this is before the internet, before computers were in vogue and no cell phones and all that. And you wrote letters, and then you put your fraternity payphone as a return phone call that hopefully these employers would call, and somebody would go, "Hey, Paul, you got drunk last night," or, you just don't want that to happen. So I ended up getting the jobs offers, and I went to work for a company called Louis Dreyfus. You may not be familiar with, other than it is related to Julia Louis Dreyfus, but they're a big grain company out of New York. And then I was sent to Springfield, Illinois, and when I was in Springfield, Illinois, I traded grain every day with the Andersons. So
interesting.
Wow.
Small world, 1980.
So they brought you in then based on that relationship?
I'm
into
sorry?
the Andersons?
Oh, no, God, I hope not. That was a long time ago. I think Mike Anderson remembers that. But I used to, just how I came to visit Toledo literally in 1981 for the Toledo Board of Trade picnic. We have an industry picnic that still exists today, and it was held at the Andersons farm, and kind of, hung out there. That was the first time I'd come in Toledo, and the next time was fast forward 35 years later or whatever. Right?
Yeah, so let's fast forward 35 years later. What was it about the Andersons? What was it about Toledo that has you saying this is the right opportunity? So
in between all that time, I went back to Stanford and got a graduate degree, and met my wife, who was also a student there but worked in San Francisco, and which was best decision ever made. And then we moved to Chicago, where I took my first job for a company, Cargill, where I worked for 30 years.
Where is she from?
She's from L.A., from Palos Verdes.
Okay.
So we moved to Chicago, worked at the Board of Trade downtown, and the guys yelling, screaming at each other. Mm-hmm. They hired me for my size, not my academic capability. And my wife worked in advertising on Michigan Avenue. We had no kids. We were living, those were
sounds wonderful.
Salad days, man.
Talk to us more about not having kids.
And your bar wasn't even there then, right?
No, that's right. right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were no kids, no car.
That sounds
Lived on
great.
Oak Street, which is a very swish address nowadays, right? And did that for a couple of years, and then we started into this business and moved up to Minneapolis, which is headquarters of Cargill, and got into the metals business, and then lost my job because they shut the division, and I started in the corn milling business, and we moved a total of 11 times in my career all around Iowa, Nebraska, Tennessee, Brazil. So we did Chicago. We did a bunch of hopping around.
How old were you when you did the leap to Brazil?
We were early 30s. Had 4 little kids.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness.
It was
a big
awesome.
culture shock.
Yeah, no, it was
cool.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, being from California, it's not that far of a leap. I think if I was from a little town in, Iowa, it'd been a real shocker.
Springfield, Illinois to Brazil is a big leap. Yeah.
But my wife thought, so I always told this story. She lived in L.A., San Francisco, Chicago, Sao Paulo, Blair, Nebraska.
Yep.
Which one doesn't fit in the picture, right?
You hear that story all the time.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what makes you so malleable to these different places.
Just desperate for a paycheck was it back then, right?
Yeah, right.
The fun thing when you worked for a big company, when you got transferred, you got a 1-month salary allowance. So you got like one extra paycheck. So you're like, oh, transfer me quick so I can get that extra paycheck. And my bosses always say, oh yeah, leverage up, borrow money and get it in your house because the company will buy it and move it out. I never made money on houses. I think 6 houses we didn't make a dime in that period of time.
Makes sense.
Then many years later, one house we killed it.
That's
so
right.
finally it paid off, right? But I think we were open for things, and I was very fortunate. We decided, my wife had a better job than I did, and she had a great career in kind of advertising, publishing. And then we had 2 kids, and then all of a sudden we had 4 kids and said, okay, we're going to go with my career, and she was going to stay home.
You just kidnapped 2 other kids?
Yeah, we have 6 altogether.
Oh my God, good for you.
So
holy cow.
4 girls and 2 boys. So they're all grown adults now. They're 25 to 38. So
anyone still around the area?
No, but they won't come here. No, I'm joking. In fact, they're just here. They love coming to Toledo. So it's sort of funny is that they live in a circle around Toledo. So we've got Charlotte, New York, Minneapolis, Chicago.
Okay.
They're all about an hour flight.
Where do they live in Chicago?
Evanston.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just north, right by the campus. So
you got a 25-year-old. So would have moved here.
When we came here, it was our senior year of high school.
Okay.
So I came when she was finishing, and my wife kind of stayed behind to have her finish and sell the house and stuff. And then we built a house here on the river in Perrysburg, so we kind of did it in between stage. And then she went off to college, and we became empty nesters. So it was kind of you talk about transitions in your life with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and different. And here at we were 57, which most people say your final chapter, and it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
Sure.
Full circle answering your question finally. I had a great career at Cargill. I love the company. It's a phenomenal company. I got farther there than I ever thought I would. Had really big jobs. Had global jobs. So I had Russia, China, India, South America. And so I lived on a plane. So the last 8 years, I was gone all the time. So you meet these guys in the airport, I'm a 3 million miler. Oh, how cool is that?
Wow.
Well, it just means you don't have much of a life because you're on a plane.
Right.
And when I would travel for work, I'm in Caracas and my daughter's in the school play, and then you miss the flight and you're toast, right? So you're not a great dad and a husband when you're gone all the time. So my 2 youngest daughters, I think, live that life. And I reported to the CEO, was a great guy. And I just thought, am I going to keep doing this for another 8 years? And it would have been great. We lived on Lake Minnetonka, which is a really cool place up there. So we had a nice life. And a headhunter called me about this job at the Andersons. And I hadn't thought much about the Andersons in probably 25 years, being honest, right? But I always knew them, the individuals, like you said, the Anderson family member or any employee of the Andersons, are all really solid, honest, smart people. And in our industry, the company is very respected. They're not the biggest of the big, but a very well-known and well-respected company. And I thought, to go from a private company, I ran a big division, but in some ways, in revenues and stuff, this is much smaller and a lot less people, but you get to run your own show. And even though I ran my own show, I ran my own show of a bigger company. And you're never the guy, right?
Right.
So it's what you guys decided to do, sort of. Well, I guess you don't own the parks, do you?
No, and I'm actually not even employed. They just gave me this hat.
Well, these two guys run their own shows, so you're kind of a schlepper. Right?
Yeah, you have no idea how accurate that is, sir. Yeah.
So and the funny story is I came home and I talked to my wife. I said, hey, Mary Louise, this guy called me about this job. It's in Maumee, Ohio. And I thought she'd say, you're out of your, mind, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, is there a major airport nearby? I said, yes, Detroit. She says, I'm in. That was it.
Wow.
How about it?
Because, again, we moved 11 times, but we lived in little teeny towns where you got to go to a mid-sized town to fly to another town to connect.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people here realize how great it is to have a major airport nearby, right?
And nearby to a country standards, as opposed to we are griping that there's no airport, but it's only a 45-minute drive. We may mention that the other day, right? You wouldn't be able to get to Chicago's airport in 45 minutes.
No.
Almost
when I was in Minneapois, I was 40 minutes from the airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I lived in a suburb of the city, right? So,
when I lived in Texas, I was in Dallas. And it took, I said nobody lives in Dallas, right? But I actually lived in Dallas. And it would take me an hour to get to a Cowboys game. Wow. And it would take me 45 minutes to get to the airport. And I was in the same...
He's a terrible driver, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's also...
This is not even information.
No, that's just...
Gretchen, they don't let you talk in this podcast?
No, I try not. No, they don't.
Yeah.
That microphone is made out of plastic. It isn't actually even plugged into the board.
Also, I did want to say that I met Matt through Rotary and other... anybody who drives a beer fire truck is someone you want to get to know.
For
sure.
Absolutely.
But I
Unless your house is on fire.
heard about both the two of you, and I was thinking maybe I've met them or not, but I'm not sure. No offense to that. And probably you might say the same thing. I don't know. He works at the Andersons. I've never met the guy, but really cool things you guys do. So it's kind of fun that you got this podcast kicking off. I think
Thank you. It's been good. You are our
Tallest.
fifth guest?
Tallest? Yeah, I got that.
Yes.
Fattest. I got all the oldest. I'm winning a lot of categories right now.
I do think, though, that the Andersons, and this is not news to anyone in this room, is a staple in the community. They're beloved for any number of reasons, not just from a business standpoint, but the people themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, and Kevin mentioned this a little bit. I don't know if pressure is the right word. You've certainly had a giant career, but taking over a family's business.
Yeah.
Did that weigh in on your decision? Had to have. And how does that factor into a formula that makes you a leader?
Sure. And one of the things it's in Toledo, it's hard to explain to people because they thought the Andersons were the retail stores, that was
right.
a company.
Right.
And the time when we were closing the retail stores, I was in the Maumee parking lot, and this older woman there, she says, well, what are you going to do? You don't have a job anymore. And I said, see that big grain elevator right across the street with the Anderson sign on top? And she said, oh, yeah, I assume they rented that for advertising for the store.
Gretchen, you must have been so relieved.
You were the little old lady in the parking lot?
I was.
Excuse me, sir.
But the interesting part, I think, the other thing is, yes, started by Harold Anderson over 75 years ago, was a family business for a long time, but it's been a public company for 28 years. We're 100% owned publicly. The family owns some small shares that have been passed down over years, but there's no B shares, like Ford or Smuckers or something like that. So it's really a public company. I'm the first non-family member to be CEO. So that's a change. And my predecessor, Mike Anderson's a phenomenal guy.
Yes, he is.
And and I was fortunate that to have maybe 7 years of Dick around, and just that he's my dad's age, and my dad was in the grain business. I really kind of looked up to Dick a lot. It's kind of like I'm a Ronald Reagan figure. It's just like larger than life person, and just was a great mentor to me. And Mike has been all along. But it's a public company, so we're there for the shareholders, our employees, and growth. And so I think our board, when I interviewed, said we need you to do some things to keep the company progressing. One of them is you're going to have to shut down these retail stores.
We'd like to talk about that.
I don't want to talk about it. And and I said, well, why do I need to do that? And I said, why doesn't Mike do it before I come?
That's exactly right.
And Mike said, well, he doesn't want it. Not that he doesn't want to.
I understand.
He gets the decision, but boy, it's going to be kind of a difficult thing, right? But he did give me a brand new office building. So we got the office building. So that was a trade-off.
Building. Yeah.
And what we did is right away, I just hired some consultants. I don't know anything about retail. I mean, I'm a grain guy and been in the food and ag business. And so got some people from Target and Walmart and got consultants in. They said, it's over.
Yeah, sure.
You got to get out. The challenge is that we weren't making money, but we didn't have the computer systems. We need roofs on the buildings, and we're gonna have to invest some serious money, and let alone the internet shopping and everything else. And it is a much beloved place. I hear it every week. When I
hear it every week.
No.
I mean, like I think it's about every week.
My grandma went in and bought cheese, and my dad bought his wine, and I got my dog food there. And I said, I agree. I went shopping there.
The bakery, right.
My daughter worked there.
Right.
Love the stores. So it's a part of our legacy, and it was a great thing in the 70s and 80s, and a big part of the company in its time. And you think about it in honoring the Andersons, they did a Walmart before Walmart ever did.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
So if they wanted to go, let's just go retail and let's go nationwide, they could have just blown it out and been a retailer, but we're grain guys.
Right.
We're ag company, right? So that's in the roots.
Well, and I think that sorry, go ahead.
You keep cutting her off.
I know, God, he's so rude. Who's responsible for the culture at the Andersons internally? Because people
all of us.
universally talk about how great it is to work there, the people, the quality of the people that work there, their commitment to the community.
Right.
Who sets that?
I'd love to say me, but that'd be a very arrogant statement. It's all of us, right? And that's the one thing that was passed down to me. We have a document at the company called the Statement of Principles, which sounds like it's the Bible, like it was, up on a mountain somewhere. But it's just fundamental, do to others like you do unto yourself. It's just fundamental things. Treat your employees with respect. Treat your customers with even more respect. How do you, it's this kind of code of conduct. And most of us come to work for the company for that.
Yeah.
Because we choose a culture. You have people that have been there 20, 30, 40 years, been in the company the whole time, their whole career. And we love that, right? But we also need to keep moving and changing and adapting. And so half our employees are new within the last 5 years.
Wow.
Because all companies are growing and changing and evolving, right? But we have that same giving back to the community, which I think one of the things that gives our reputation. When I need to tell people in Toledo's our headquarters town. We love it. But we're, 2,400 people in 120 communities.
Right.
And so we're a big deal in, Denison, Iowa.
Right.
And, these little towns in Indiana and in Louisiana where it might be a town of a few hundred people or a few thousand
Denison,
people.
Iowa, the home of Field of Dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
So look at these two. I have to deal with these two. Bad.
What about your knuckleheads? It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, you own a television, for Christ's sakes.
I can quote most of the movie, but
Yeah.
I got you at Iowa.
Right here. But that probably adds to one of the selling points, but also carrying on that legacy is...
Yeah, it's hard, but it's great too. It's when your personal values align 100% with your company's values, you got a home run.
Yeah.
And we wear it on our sleeve a little bit. And we're the only Fortune 500 company that's God in its mission statement.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're not Bible thumpers or something, but it's about values and beliefs, and we're talking about a higher being, not
the principle of it, like
particular person. And it goes back to again our ancestors. Where I remember Dick at the time of 9/11 was very involved with the rabbi and the imam and the bishop to get them come together, and how we had several Muslim employees that were kind of taking grief at that time. And there was some leaders in this community that stepped up and said, no, this is what we should do for each other. And so there's times, we don't want to make political statements, right? But just be good people and do good stuff. It's not rocket science, right? And when you're in agriculture, we've dealt with some, we have over 20,000 farmer customers, and many of them we've dealt with their parents, their grandparents, or even 4 generations. So if you mess them up once, they never forget.
Sure.
Farmers like elephants. They remember. So you have a tough customer. This is very funny. You want this show to be funny, right?
We're going to delete all of this.
Okay, good.
So don't feel pressured.
We put all the pressure on Matt to bring the funny, and if he doesn't, then we got nothing.
Actually, ask me Toledo questions.
When you are not running the ship here, what is something you do to disconnect?
Nothing.
Yeah. I would take that as an honest answer.
I'm kind of a novice at many, expert at none. So people say, "Oh, do you play golf? Yeah. Do you play tennis? Yeah. Do you play pickleball? Yeah. Do you do that? Yeah. I do all of them terribly.
Okay.
I'm officially the worst golfer at Toledo Country Club.
Okay.
And the reason I never belonged to country club. Well, there should be.
Yeah.
But
it's a tennis racket.
Yeah.
Try this.
Across the street, we live on the river, and so we can take a little pontoon boat across down the river and go there. Who can do that?
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
So we had college friends came out from New York, Philadelphia, L.A., San Francisco, 4 couples, and we were at our house, which that's the coolest house. I mean, this house in L.A. would cost 10 times, 100 times more, whatever. Right. And then we went, let's go golfing. Throw your clubs on the back of the boat. We'll go over to the club. I'm like, what? You take a boat to your country club.
Isn't that the coolest?
That's the coolest.
So cool.
And they're like, and then the cost of it is what it costs them their 1 month food budget
Absolutely.
is at wherever they live, right? So they just can't. And that's the part people in Toledo don't appreciate. You're 3 Toledo's, right? And I keep telling people, like, oh, let's do this comparison to Stockton I talked about. Stockton doesn't have a zoo. Stockton doesn't have an art museum. Stockton doesn't have a ballet, a symphony, an opera. They got a minor league baseball team, a minor league hockey team, but they don't have any of the arts and the tradition of that. The parks are nothing like the Metro Parks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just saying it because you're phenomenal. So you think of the core things this community has, and it's so great. And it takes outsiders sometimes to come in. Yeah, I've lived in big places in California and Illinois. Right. Minnesota's nice. Minnesota
Yes, it
has
is.
phenomenal
It is nice.
parks. And
Great parks.
we have everything there. But man, I'd think it'd take Toledo against anybody right now. You know, we're here forever. We've moved in and we're not moving. This is people said, oh, where are you going to retire? Florida or California? No, this is it right here.
Is your house built for someone of your height?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll feel like a munchkin when you come to my house.
Okay. Well, I
Cast
get
the
it.
salt.
You
That's
know,
what we have.
I don't know you didn't
Well,
pick me out in particular.
I mean, and your wife isn't 6'7".
No, she's normal.
Maybe I feel like.
But my
your-
kids are. I have sons 6'7". I have some daughters that are 6 feet. So we have tall family, and we have. So I told you, we have 6 kids, 4 married. We have 8 grandchildren,
Oh my
9
goodness.
coming on the way, and we got a couple already married. So
Congrats.
Yeah, all the way
that's
around.
why we have a house that looks like a sorority house or something. We've got like all these bedrooms.
So you can
'cause-
convene.
Bunk beds, right?
yeah, we just added on to it, which people think we're out of our minds, but we want all our kids to convene.
Sure.
That's the
And
best.
So Christmas and 4th of July, and we have these huge, big soirees with all our kids in town, and we get very competitive because we play the Bowe Olympics. You know, we play
What is the Bowe Olympics?
Bowe Olympics gets really like last time we did a pickleball tournament.
All right.
And to the death. So some people went over the net and stuff, and then could be swimming, hopping, jumping, volleyball, whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds so fun.
So what do you work the grill? Do you?
I grill. I'm the grill guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
All
a
right.
big grill guy. That's about the extent of my.
well, he already
cooking
said he
skills.
couldn't play pickleball, so
Yeah. No,
gotta
I'm
do the
actually.
grilling.
I want to get a little invitation. I'm a great partner because I cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got
Yeah.
It either hits me or whatever. So I'm good at that. Hobbies. We travel. Like we try to do one international and one domestic trip a year.
Okay.
what's coming up this year?
Yeah, what's on the list?
We're taking a cool trip with the art museum. I'm fortunate enough to be on the art museum board, and we're going to Italy, to
Very
Rome
fun.
and Florence, which we've been before, but we are super pumped about.
Does
that.
one of the curators go?
Yeah, curators go, as well as Adam will go and lead that, and we'll be very intellectually learning some art
I
and
talk to Adam
eating
almost every
some
day. It's a nightmare.
pasta and drinking some red wine, and
Yeah,
it's
good
going
for
to be
you.
a good time.
Every time I talk to him, I'm reminded how uncultured I am.
Don't even
Sure.
start. Oh,
Yeah.
I feel like a mental midget when you get to the young road scholar. I realize he's the age of my children. And I'm
Sure.
like, oh, boy, they're kind of schleps. You know, they haven't done much.
You know, this is a podcast, so they may actually.
I hope they hear this.
We'll take care of that. We'll edit that
Yeah,
around.
it's a little bit
it
late
up.
for them to get education.
Yeah.
Now, but
What's on the
That's hilarious.
the United States tour this year?
oh yeah, we're just doing some basic stuff. We actually did a trip on our own to LA last year for LA. We did an art trip with Jay and Trina Secor, a couple you know here in town, and we went on a group and did all the art. My wife's from LA, but we never been to a lot of the museums and,
Sure.
and did Pasadena, and that was kind of cool. This year, where are we going? We got to go out west. We'll go to Colorado. We're doing something, and maybe we go visit our children most of the time.
Art has always been part of your life, or that's something.
Really? It
Sure,
sounds like I
okay.
should say that. Oh yeah. I'll tell you another funny story.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, you guys don't let my kids hear this story, so they can't listen to this. When I was a senior, I took history of architecture, spring quarter senior year. Do you guys remember that period? Mm-hmm. And it was in the after.
highly engaged.
Oh, highly engaged time.
Yeah.
It's in the afternoon. Nobody takes an afternoon class, spring quarter senior, right? So I come back, about 6 guys in my fraternity, and some of our athletes, whatever. We said, let's take this class and we'll just study up. We got the book. We cut out all the pictures of all the stuff, because you sat in a dark room, and they flashed
Oh my God.
slides and said, oh, that's the Chapel de Longchamp in France, 1492, whatever. You had to memorize this stuff.
Yeah.
So we made flashcards, and we made it into a drinking game.
Of course.
And we
Absolutely.
every Thursday night, we you hold it up and you go, oh, nail it in. You drink if you don't get it. And we're crushing it, right? So we go into the final, and sure enough, we're looking up going, we just nailed it. Just crushed this exam. So then all of a sudden, we get called by the dean of students. Like, oh, shut. He said, you guys must have cheated on this exam.
Oh, no.
Well, one, you never showed up to class. You got 99%, and you all missed the exact same question. because what we cut out, we wrote the wrong thing down on the flashcard. And so then the professor's there, and I said, ask us any questions. Yeah, we nailed it.
We just drank last night.
We have to go get hammered. We'll come back just for that.
And we knew all the answers. He said, "Don't tell anyone you've ever done this because it ruins the whole college experience." I said, "That's one way. There's lots of ways to learn, right?"
It's made him question his entire career.
Yeah,
also.
exactly. Plus, you enjoy it more too when you're studying.
And so you're also you're serving with the ballet and the symphony, and you were Mother Ginger. Is that right?
That is true.
When did you do that?
Just a few weeks ago, and I've hung up my slippers.
How did you like it?
It was a hoot.
Yeah.
It was a hoot. It was one thing that was a little tradition. Dick Anderson had done that. He was very involved with the symphony. I was on the board of the Symphony of Minneapolis, the Minnesota Orchestra, for 5 or 6 years. And so when I came here, it seemed like a logical way to get involved. And a little bit in tradition to Dick too. So I was chairman of TAPA for a couple of years during COVID, and we had some challenges. But we got fortunately we got some government money during that time, and real excited about the direction we're going. And been on the art museum for a few years now, and then my wife and I are both involved with United Way and a lot of other local organizations. So it's been a great community to get involved in.
So
go ahead.
No, please.
How do you get? And I'm back to Mother Ginger. How do you get up to?
Yeah, there's like a ladder.
Oh, okay.
You climb up this ladder on the side, and then you climb into this giant apparatus that's got a couple. Maybe I shouldn't give away the secrets.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a couple guys under it that drive it around, and all the little ginger snaps, or whatever they're called, come in underneath, and it's pretty cool.
Think about like the college football Pat Bowe.
Yeah, that picture has gone around quite a bit. LinkedIn with lipstick. Yeah, it's good. The fun part about that's called Big Fish, Little Pond, right? So being in Toledo, a medium-sized city, the opportunities, things I get to do to be involved. I mean, I'm in Chicago. They're not asking me to be on the art museum board, right? Or be chairman of the United Way campaign, or you name it, right? In a city like this, you can all be involved. And it doesn't have to be CEO of some company. You could be
show up.
Some hump from the Park District, and they'll talk to you.
I don't know why. Is it because I'm sitting close to him? Is that
Yes,
why?
Yeah, it's fun to pick on you. Gretchen seems too nice. I didn't want to pick.
Well, that's not the case, sir. I can assure you of that.
I mean, it wasn't just the reference. I mean, he actually pointed at you.
Right. Yeah. No,
when he
same
said
thing with
that.
this house. He's like, yeah, it's not all for success or little pipsqueaks. Like, yeah, I get it.
But I'll give you an attaboy. So we went to a little party at the Ribbon. Right? That's what you call it, right?
Yes.
At the Glass City Metro Park, East Toledo.
What do you call it with the little restaurant there?
You got it. This Ribbon in the Gardens restaurant.
And they had a little patio outside with the fires going. It was on the weekend, right after Christmas. Man, it was awesome.
Isn't it cool?
It was awesome.
But that's
unbelievable.
To your point, we boosted 2/3 of that idea from larger places and brought it here because you can do these things in Toledo, and you can participate by showing up. I think that's it's a strong point. It's an important one. The Ribbon itself is a bit of amalgam between park systems, but certainly from downtown Chicago. And we can't have this? Yeah, of course we can.
So Minnesota, we have we have a golf tournament out in the middle of the lake in the winter, and we have this ice skate. I mean, that's normal. And when we moved there from California, our neighbors said, come over for a skating party at our pond in our backyard. Well, I'm not a skate. And they looked at me like, are you out of your mind? You're not a skate? Or what are you, totally lame-o? I'm from California.
Yeah, right.
We didn't have a sheet of ice where I grew up, right? And so when I went to the Ribbon, people said, are you going to skate? No.
Yeah, sure.
Certain things in life you don't need to do.
Those little penguins that you
I know.
hold on
We
to.
don't have one for this dude.
I know. When I go over, I'm going to break the ice.
Here's a Yeti for you to guide you, sir, on your skating.
You should get a Yeti.
Yeah,
You
okay.
should.
We don't need a list of complaints from you, Dr.
My
Bowe.
family went same after Christmas. We went and got a cabana thing, and it
We had
was
to shut
so
it down for a week
fun.
after they. It was a
clean it
mess.
out, hose it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was fun. We did have fun. So,
But it's funny, when our kids come, we do all Toledo stuff.
Yeah.
So we did the pedal pub downtown one
fun.
summer. We went to a walleye game. We go to Mud Hens game. We did axe throwing.
Yeah, fun.
We went to Imagination Station where the little grandkids that run around like crazy people. So it's kind of for our family, it's a destination.
Totally.
Pool, just.
And only Toledo
fun.
ones complain about having access to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And none of those places are cost prohibitive. And if it is, there's programs to be able to get everyone at it. So I know you made that point, but it's a strong one.
And Fred restaurants too. Just a lot of cool places to go.
what's your favorite restaurant nowadays?
Oh, I was afraid you're going to ask me that. Oh, someone paid me. So no. We love to go downtown to Chop House, mainly because of the view and food's fantastic, but that's just kind of a cool spot. In our neck of the woods in Perrysburg. We go to Rose and Thistle. It's got a little teeny, like 10 tables.
It's
I love that little place.
Yeah.
And, all those places, Inside the Five and Fifth Street Pub, pizza, stuff like that. Kango's awesome. There's a lot of great places. If you're living in Toledo and you're upset that you can't go to a Michelin star restaurant, well, get a life, right?
Right.
Get a plane ticket, go to Chicago, go to New York.
Totally.
We love that too. But I think one of you guys said this. It's like you need 20 places that are good places that is going to have a good meal and meet some nice people. And
sure,
when we go to Rose and Thistle, it's kind of like going to Cheers. Like, hey, you know everybody in the restaurant, right? It's kind of fun.
It feels good.
Yeah.
So what do people come to the Andersons for? If community people, other community organizations, what do they ask of you?
They want money.
Yeah.
No, and that's the point. We want to do both, right? So we want to have involvement. And for our employees, we talk about time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah.
Time and talent are worth a lot, right? So getting people involved. And all of our senior managers are on boards of local charities or involved in committees of charities. And we really encourage that, especially our younger managers, because it's a great way to learn a lot across the country. I'm not just talking about Toledo. And then we like to work with those local communities. I talked about little small towns we're in. Well, we just opened a food bank in a small town in Indiana that unfortunately the Midwest has really been traumatized by drug addiction.
Yes.
And if you go to a lot of these small towns where you was meth and now it's what do you call it? What's the little pills that everybody's taking?
Opioids.
Whatever, opioids. So it's really bad. And there's some little town that had big factory close, and so there's a lot of trouble in small town Midwest. There's a lot of places that have some need, and
they don't
we
have
can
the
help.
resources traditionally, right? In
a little town like a little teeny farm town, you talk about 10, 20 grand's a big deal.
Absolutely.
New York City, you wouldn't get in the door for that, right?
Well, I'll tell you from the Metro Parks perspective, and I'm not just saying that because you're here. Not only has the Andersons been absolutely critical to our growth and development and us serving the public, but it's always the right things as well.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's a blank check. I feel like it is.
No.
Tell me what this program does and who is it for. It validates us to know that we have your support, and I mean that sincerely. So thank you on behalf of the Metro Parks.
We have a long tradition of that, and we have a phenomenal person who runs it, Julie Payeff.
Oh my God!
Everybody knows Julie.
We couldn't get her, so we got you.
Yeah, exactly. She wasn't available.
You wouldn't believe how busy she is.
Yeah. And so she holds people accountable.
Absolutely.
And we're more about little bits. We're not going to give someone some giant, humongous check. We want to have and do that over a long period of time, which we have 75 years plus of doing that. And so we try to do that, again, back to all that 120 communities, stay there consistently and don't be in and out.
Right.
And we have a corporate foundation, and then the family separately has a family foundation that is separate from the company, and both do a lot in Toledo, so it's nice.
I find myself talking about the Andersons pretty regularly whenever I'm talking about the nonprofit sector, and I hop on a soapbox when we get onto this topic because I despise the term not-for-profit or nonprofit, and this delineation between nonprofit and for-profit, because I think it sells both sectors short. Yeah. And I use the Andersons as an example for that to say, here's an organization that does a really good job making profit, but I don't get the impression that the primary driver for you guys or the sole driver for you is that you are just for profit. And so for me, I think it's really about, there's for-profit businesses. I think that's a sector that exists. But then I think there's for impact. And I think a lot of the 501c3 organizations most of them I like to think are for impact. There's some 501c3s that are for profit. Like their mission is to drive revenue more than anything else. And then we've got companies like the Andersons that I certainly understand that you are a for-profit.
There's a lot of great companies in this community. I mean, we're part of some. You guys know all the the other big companies, OI, OC, Dana, that do a lot of great things. A lot of small private companies that have a long history of doing it. And the nice part is that's been a continuous journey for our company to be involved that way. And when we do well, we can do good, right? And we do well in all those different communities. And so a lot of things you would never see. We're involved in a lot of 4-H projects and small farm towns and things like that. So my favorite thing we do in Toledo, I love that we do those garbage cans that say the Andersons on them, and they're every community event. I love being the garbage guys.
The cardboard ones, those
are
awesome.
Aren't those awesome?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things, being associated with the trash. But I think for the yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think the key thing for our company is build a brand, one moment at a time. And you do that in your community, and you do it with your employees, and you do it with your customers. And you have to build those moments over and over and over and over again. And those community involvement moments kind of help build your brand. It creates people who want to work for you, as well as have people just, when you say, I was on a plane here recently and coming to Detroit, and a woman says, what do you do? And I work for the Andersons. And she says, oh, that's a great company.
Yeah, right.
And I said, why did you say that? Yeah. She's from Detroit. Yeah. She says, I don't know. I just heard about that. I said, are you going to say it's because you shopped the stores? She said, what stores?
I think. If there, certainly is your story not finishing, but if there were a couple words that you want people to remember your legacy of running the company, what would they be?
Boy, that's a good question.
I'm full of them.
Yeah. A couple words is hard. One is growth. I mean, so when I came, we've gone from revenues of $3 billion to $17 billion in the last 7 years. So big growth. We created value. Yeah, check Julie. And our earnings has grown that. We made a big acquisition in Kansas City, a big company called Lansing Trade Group. We sold some businesses too. So we did a lot of change. So I think one of the things I was kind of a change agent. And one thing we needed to do, we were a very stable company. We needed to run a little faster. Yeah. And we needed to exercise our muscles a little bit more. And we've done it, whether it be safety or engagement or working with customers, we needed to bring in some external talent too, to drive the wheel, the classic flywheel. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's, more about change and longevity. We want to build this up. So, I mean, I just have this little chapter. So it's been 8 years in the company. I hope people say, oh, that was a pretty good chapter.
Right.
It was an interesting read.
Yeah.
Well, so you talked a little bit about the things you like about Toledo, the things that you brag about with other people. I'm curious what you want to see next. What's the thing you want? The
thing we're passionate about, my wife and I, is early childhood education and feeding children. So when I read all the statistics about Toledo and fail to thrive and people that are hungry going to school, it just tears my heart, right? And so we're trying to get involved in that. The problem is there's 5,000 answers for that, there's not one simple one, and it takes a lot of it. So I think, for me, feels like if enough of us lean into it in a town like this size, we could fix it. Yeah. We could move the needle.
Right.
Like when I was in Chicago, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Sure, right.
I live there. Same in California, everything's so big, right? And here, if enough of us care, and I think there's a lot of people who do care, do enough, we could move it.
Or focus resources.
When you talk about the numbers of the people 0 to 5, right, and the investment that's needed, it's not something that we can't accomplish.
I can't believe this state does not have pre-K funded by the state, and we'll keep working on that politically.
Yes.
But in the meantime, there's a lot of people who are really doing some phenomenal work here, and we've gotten to know a lot of the people there. And so I think in our retired life that Mary Louise and I'd like to kind of lean into that. Yeah.
There's
really enough people like us who agree with that.
Yeah. So what's your daily schedule? Are you like a 5 a.m. guy?
Oh, yeah, I wish that was true.
Do you go into the office every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your whole team, everyone's back in full time?
Yeah. The funny part of during COVID, we were an essential business because we feed people.
Sure.
So all ag was essential. And the funny part about our company, 80% of our employees work in factories scattered all over the Midwest. And they'd be like, what's the deal with this office remote thing? Yeah. I'd show up here every day. What are you guys dealing with?
Right.
But we do, in our office here, we have flexible arrangements. So each department kind of does their own thing. I'd say our IT department is probably more flexible because that field is more that way. Otherwise, our grain traders, you got to be there every day. Right. So
I feel like we're going to do this entirely out of order, but you mentioned the Andersons was an essential business because you feed people. I don't know that most people have any idea
what we do,
what the Andersons does.
Yeah, we left that off.
And so maybe let's sort of like go back to the beginning and tell me.
I'll try to make it simple.
Who is the Andersons?
Yeah, we're a North American ag supply chain company. So what does that mean? The ag supply chain goes from the farm to the fork, right? So we sell fertilizer to farmers. We just wholesale warehouse and distribute fertilizer. Then we buy grain from the farmers and we ship it to processors like ourselves that makes ethanol. So it could go to the pump. We have 5 ethanol plants around the country. Or you could we process it for, Frito-Lay that goes into your chips, or it could be sent to a pet food company or a soybean crusher or a flour miller, or we put in a boat and we ship it overseas to Middle East and North Africa.
So you have traders.
Yeah.
But then what are the other, and obviously IT people, management, HR, but what's the other Are there salespeople
Oh,
there?
we have salespeople. Yeah, we have salespeople with buyers, and we have people that operate the plant. So we have plant management, engineers, technical people, and then we have all the administrative, HR, IT,
Right.
legal, et cetera.
Out of curiosity, do you have any idea how many people Anderson's feeds? Is that
I don't have no
might be
idea.
possible? Okay, we
Yeah,
can
it's
cut
all-
that.
But so, I mean, like you think about the people in Toledo when you see those ships
Yeah.
sit out there, right?
Absolutely.
That go out through the Great Lakes or go into parts unknown. And we also like the day the war broke out, we were loading a ship into Ukraine in the port of Odessa. We don't own the elevator there, but we're buying it for someone else. So we have grain shipments going all around the world, and those are huge vessels. That one was going to Sudan. And you think about the terrible part of the war, everybody thinks about Ukraine, and it's terrible every single day. Now all we talk about is Palestine and the Israelis, but I mean, that's still going on there, and it's horrific. But the people in
I
Africa
was going to say,
pay the price. So when grain prices tripled, price of wheat goes up. So the little piece of bread in Sudan went from like a nickel to 15 cents.
right?
So global.
So what's the big deal? Well,
Yeah.
they can't
Yeah, it's absolutely right.
buy it anymore.
Right.
Third world.
It's always the worst, lowest people on the food
They
chain
pay, yeah.
the most, right?
So who? I should know this, but in terms of our port, you don't contribute to the management of that.
No,
that's the Port Authority. I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, we run our own grain elevators that sit there, right?
Okay.
And so we load the ships and out they go. But the Port
Okay.
Authority's in charge of the
The whole
port
thing.
and do a great job, by the way.
But I mean,
And this is a smaller port relative
Sure.
to the New Orleans, or we have elevators in the Houston area in Texas.
I feel like we could talk to you for probably 2 more
It'd be
hours.
even more
Not-
boring
not
that no
me.
one will
No,
ever
it's
listen to
so-
this
This is
podcast.
just the right amount.
Yeah, no, Matt's over.
Better
it.
have something that's more amusing.
I'm interested in the pressure of your job, right? The number of employees, the number of people that rely on the Andersons,
The chain itself.
Yeah, I mean that whole it's so it's not just Julie Payeff that counts on you doing a good job, so she
God,
has
I
a
wish she
job.
was here. It'd be so much better.
But-
Yeah, it would be a lot better.
But the employees at Frito-Lay rely on you, and so
Yeah,
that
right.
idea that I guess I'm curious, how do you lift that burden, or how do you segment that so that when you go home?
Oh, that's no burden at all.
Or I'm going to add to that and say, what keeps you up at night? Like, what is the thing that would
That's funny. People say that, and I sleep like a baby.
What a jerk.
When I can't sleep, I start thinking. About something at work, and it's
Yeah.
like an idea or something like that. It's not, oh my gosh, this is a terrible thing that's going to happen or whatever. It's always about thinking about some new idea, and you just
Yeah.
keep going in your
Sure.
head, and then you can't sleep, which I'm sure you have someone who's opened a new restaurant or someone who's opened a
Yeah.
new park or
Yeah, right.
doing a political thing. Everybody has the same thing. I just want to make sure our workers are safe every single day. I think you might remember several years ago we had a tragic accident where we had 2 gentlemen were killed in one of our facilities. And for me, I came in here as a zealot on safety. I've always worked around factories in the grain business, and never experienced that in 30 years, and then had it happen here, and it's devastating. It's gut-wrenching. So that's, job one is make sure we're safe, we're environmentally sound, take care of our customers. Do that, the rest take care of itself, right? And then you attract good people. So I don't work. The people that work for me do all the work. I just cruise around and
I doubt that very seriously. I'm sure you do a lot.
Well, and it's great work the organization does. I really appreciate when I had asked you to do this.
he didn't know that it'd be so boring.
Well, I'm pleased. As soon as he said Stanford, and I'm so pleased you said yes. I mean, you are an embodiment of what we sort of were hoping for in this podcast, right? These are good people plugging into important things in our city and our region that not just make us tick from an economic standpoint, but sort of make us whole. And I mean that sincerely.
And also, there's a lot of, people can get negative about stuff. Oh, we don't have this, don't have that. And
That's
I think
exactly
it
how
takes
Gretchen is.
outsiders. When we came here, we moved into our house. We built this house, moved in. People came, knocked on a door, handed us a basket of food, said, "Welcome to Perrysburg."
Yeah.
I'm like, who does that?
And you shipped that basket immediately,
Riley.
immediately to Ukraine.
We met, But he told your kids, if you don't eat it, starving kids in Africa.
That's right.
But no, I met people, and I know no dishing Minnesota, but we'd meet people in Minnesota they call Minnesota nice. And they say, "Oh, Matt, so nice to meet you. You should come over for dinner sometime."
Yeah.
They never.
Were you asking me to dinner?
No.
Okay. Because I'm available
Yeah,
a lot.
no,
Okay.
no,
okay.
not at all.
Yeah.
So maybe your wife and kids, but
What
you can't
the
come.
hell is that?
But people here, I mean, and maybe it's because we came here also as empty nesters. So for my wife and I, when you guys are in the stage you're in, you're raising kids and doing sports and after school activity, your life just explodes. And you can imagine with 6 kids, we were like,
I can't imagine.
Not so, and business travel and all that. Also, it was just the two of us, and we're meeting people, and we like kind of reconnected. It's like you're having your second childhood again with adult people and doing fun stuff.
That's
and
awesome.
I love
we've
it.
met so many great people, some that are older enough to retire, that live here or go live in other places to come back, and other younger people like you guys that are raising your families, and just they're fun folks here.
Well, when you talked about the Andersons, one of the things you had said is that we've got to do well to do good.
Yeah.
And I think when certainly when we think about the conversation about your career, both professionally but also raising a family, there's no question you've done well, and you're also doing a lot of good.
Well,
So
I don't know about
thank you.
that. Hopefully my kids do, right? So, we educated them well, so hopefully they're going to be
Doing all
okay.
you can.
That's right.
All right.
Well, great. Thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
us.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the
Pleasure to
time.
meet you officially.
Thank you.
And
Absolutely.
good luck with the podcast. I think it's really good.
Thank you. Thanks to our guest, Pat Bowe, and thanks to you for listening to another episode of The 419. For Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, I'm Kevin Mullan. We'll see you back here next month on The 419.